Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatAllah wa barakatuhu. It is now 9:03 Eastern Standard Time, and I know we have a lot of people all over the globe, but I'm assuming people will still be connecting within the next few minutes or so. So inshallah, I will officially begin in about 2 to 3 minutes, inshallah. And if you're already here connected with us, simply stay tight. And Jazakallah khair, may you be rewarded for your patience, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum to those who are connecting. I had a little welcome message before to let you know that inshallah we'll be beginning now, probably in about a minute. I'm giving everyone a couple of minutes to connect and whatnot. I really appreciate your participation. I received so many good questions, and we will officially begin very shortly, inshallah. Okay, let's begin, inshallah. I'm going to start off with the beloved dua of our beloved Prophet Musa, alayhi salam, aka Moses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him and, may peace be upon him. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay, so what I'd really like to start off with now, you all know that I'm very big on intentions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead a short dua, inshallah, and I would like you to, follow along with me. And then once I am done with that, I will give you a minute. I will take a minute to myself to, say our own personal dua or intention. So here we go. Bismillah. Ya Allah, thank you for joining us as sisters in this dunya. Please reunite us as sisters in your akhirah. Ya Allah, give us patience, your patience when ours is low. Ya Allah, allow this to be a means to get closer to you. Ya Allah, allow us to be a better version of ourselves every single day, inshallah. Ya Allah, guide us in a world that tries to steer us in many different directions, and forgive us when we make mistakes. Ameen, ameen, ya Rabbil Alameen. So take a couple of seconds now to yourself and, set an intention, make a dua for this call. That way you don't just walk away with a lot of information, because the Q&A call will be information heavy, a lot different than, the video classes, because, I'll be busy answering all of your questions, but nonetheless, have an intention set so that way you can, measure what you've gotten afterwards, inshallah. And I will do that too, and then we'll get right into the questions, inshallah. So for those joining us, we have already made our opening dua. I'm now giving all the ladies on the call a chance to make their own dua, inshallah. And if you're just joining, please go ahead and do that for yourself, and then the questions will begin. Now, if you've already pre-submitted questions through, the Google form that I sent out, those are going to be the questions that I answer first. I'm going to go, just in order, first come, first serve, inshallah. And if you're actually connected here on the event page on Google Plus through the Hangouts app, then you can also submit questions here. And yeah, you can still also add questions to the form as well, inshallah. And just realize that I'm going to go through the ones that I received already first, inshallah. Okay, so now that we have opened up, we've said some dua together, you've set an intention, I've set an intention, and all of that, I want to make sure that you are prepared for success, inshallah. And so I hope that everyone here is in a quiet area. That's going to be important, so you could really focus. I know that that's not always easy. But I do appreciate you taking the effort and prioritizing that for yourself, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God. And other than that, it would be great if you have a place to take notes. I know that we have a lot of ladies in this group who love notes as much as I do. And, don't feel like you have to write everything down. I really want you to be here with me 100% and be able to be focused. And, so you don't need to jot every single thing down, but nonetheless, be able to capture things that really, speak to you, especially if it's your own question, inshallah. And, other than that, it would be great if you have some hydration and, a smile on your face because it's sunnah. So with that being said, I'm going to start off with the questions I've already received, inshallah. And if anyone is having any difficulty or any trouble, feel free to post on our page. I'm not really going to be able to attend to that, obviously, because I'll be answering questions, but I know we have some awesome sisters that are part of this group and you're always supporting each other. So inshallah, you'll be able to get a hand. Okay, so the first question I'm going to go through, the sister wrote, when it comes to water, what is better? She asks, is filtered water better, or bottled water, or tap water? And there's a second part to her question, but I'm going to start off with just that part of her question. So, I know that I've shared this in the classes that came out yesterday, and I also shared it in our Google group. And so I'm going to share it here again. I love to think of health as a continuum. And, if you don't know what a continuum scale is, simply put it in Google Images and you'll see exactly what that is. But, that means like at one end of the spectrum, it could be not so good. As you move along, you go to like fine, okay, good, great, optimal. So when we really look at things as a continuum, it helps us realize, one, where we currently are, and two, where we want to be and how to get there. So a lot of times we love to ask what's better or what's good, what's bad, but really that's kind of paralyzing. If you really start to understand where the different things you're curious about, which here the sister is curious about different types of water sources, if you start to map them out on a continuum, which I will give you the knowledge behind that, inshallah, if you start to map it out that way, you're going to notice that it's going to become very clear cut what is most optimal, what isn't so great, what kind of falls in the middle, and it's going to help you define all of the gray areas, because by now I hope that you've understood that, especially in the world of nutrition, everything is kind of a catch-22, subhanAllah. So even some of the healthiest foods or sources of nourishment might have some cautions to them. Nothing in this world is all good or all bad. So, we always want to think of it as a continuum. But more importantly, once they've been mapped out for you, which I'm going to help you do that very easily, inshallah. And I'm opening up with this as well, just because it's going to help apply to many different questions, not just this water question. But once it's been mapped out, and you can mentally see it, or you could even jot it down if you want to actually see the continuum scale. what happens is you can point and you could see, where am I with this? What am I currently doing in this area? And then once you know that, you could see how to move forward and you could progress. Let's say you're somewhere near like, okay, you might not get to optimal right away, but you can get better and better. And that just helps you feel not so overwhelmed with taking action steps. So yeah, I hope that that's helpful for you, inshallah. And you could feel free. I believe there is an area here to put questions in, to put comments. There's a chat box. If you're here on Google Plus, on Hangouts with us, please feel free to write something in the chat. And okay, so there have been a lot of studies about bottled water. Now, obviously, bottled water is filtered water. But some studies show, and I'm not going to mention any brands actually, but the bottled water industry is regulated, obviously, but those facilities are not, they don't get checked every single day, obviously. I mean, most water bottle companies, their facilities really only get checked like once a year, give or take. This could vary, but just in terms of what I've seen and whatnot, that's the general consensus. Now, there have been studies, and I believe there is a video on YouTube, if you Google it, the story of bottled water. And I just want to be very clear cut here. I am not against bottled water. Again, we want to look at everything as a continuum: good, better, best, optimal, and we want to understand all the different sides of things. But you can see there's a lot of data that shows that certain, even really big water companies, bottled water companies, have been found to not totally go through to their own guidelines in terms of how they filter water, if that makes sense. And sometimes there's been water that has been tested that hasn't effectively been filtered the way it was supposed to. So one thing you want to know is that, not all, just because it's bottled doesn't mean that it is completely filtered, first of all. And then, and also it makes a difference. So, I mentioned plastic, and for those of you that already watched the hormone balance video from yesterday, I mentioned how plastic is a xenoestrogen. So yesterday I mentioned the word phytoestrogen. Basically, xenoestrogen or phytoestrogens are both fake estrogens. They mimic estrogen, and the body, when they're in the body, or the body is exposed to them, and therefore our body has a really hard time, actually creating our real estrogen, because they compete to be absorbed into the body as if it was our real estrogen. So that's problematic. Now, the difference between phytoestrogens and xenoestrogens is phyto is a fake estrogen that comes from a plant. So for instance, soy, like I mentioned in the hormonal balance video. And then, things that are more so in our environment, like plastic, that is a xenoestrogen, just so you totally understand, because I'll maybe bring that up later on with some of the questions that I have received. So, if you are drinking water that comes in a, bottle, that's just another thing to keep in mind. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you need to never drink bottled water ever again. That's obviously not very practical for some of you, but you just want to be aware of what's going on, and you want to realize that we could drive ourselves absolutely crazy trying to control everything. So there's a lot of toxins, whether we talk about bottles like I just mentioned, or our food supply, or air quality, or products, or even our clothing. There's just so many things. And if you get too into it sometimes, and you try to do everything, and you don't realize that there is a human aspect to it, you're going to become very, very overwhelmed, because there's a lot of toxins out there, a lot of hormone disruptors, and you could drive yourself crazy trying to control all of that. So I always, will give you the tips that have been proven, not only in my life, but in the life of my clients, and just, over time with my work and, thorough research to show that they are the most effective things that you should try to tackle first, inshallah. So, if I mention, a pitfall to plastic bottles, please don't start freaking out. But, you really do want to at least try to use glass more than you use, plastic, first of all. Now, in terms of filtering your own water, and I'm going to read the rest of this question, the second half of the question. The sister writes, I can't tolerate the taste of tap water because my town heavily chlorinates the water. And I believe, I know that I answered this question on Facebook yesterday in terms of that. Now, most filters that you can get, just your regular home filter, will filter out chlorine. The filter that I recommend if someone's, just starting to filter at home is the Soma filter. I will write it in the chat here. I'll write any resources in the chat box, inshallah. Actually, give me 1 second, inshallah. I'm going to see if it lets me comment on the YouTube video, because then that will be there forever and ever, inshallah. Well, forever as long as this dunya lasts, but give me 1 second here. So that way, not only the people who are connected on Google Plus could benefit. I keep calling it Google Plus. It's Google Hangouts, which is part of Google Plus, but yeah, just so no one's confused. But let's see here. Yeah, so I'm going to try to put it on the live YouTube video, so that way those of you who are there, everyone could see it, and then it'll also be saved with the recording. So let's see here. Okay, yeah, it does let me comment on here. So I'm going to actually put it in the comments here. So filter I mentioned is the Soma filter. Now, like I mentioned in the Facebook comment yesterday, this filter is really great because it's pretty cost effective. I believe the yearly price is $100, and they send you a new filter, and obviously that's cheaper than buying bottled water over the course of a year, especially if you're drinking a good amount of water. But unlike like a Brita filter or whatnot, usually most filters, like the hand held filters, usually they're made out of plastic. The Soma is made out of glass, so that's one good thing. And then the actual filter, so the filter that, filters the water, usually those are crystallized particles that, make up the filter. Usually those are also made out of plastic. And there's usually a sheet in water filters like that, and usually that's also made out of plastic. But the Soma actually creates the little crystallized pieces of their filter from coconut shell, and then the sheet part is made out of silk. So obviously that's a better option. Now, it does filter out, a lot of things, including chlorine, like this question asks. But one pitfall of it, and I believe the company, I don't know if they're looking to come out with anything, but they have mentioned this before, it does not filter out fluoride. Now, depending on where you live and your water supply, there might be fluoride in your water supply, there might not be. But usually filters that filter out fluoride, or usually like a reverse osmosis filtration system is, is a little bit more of a bigger step, is a little bit pricier, whatnot. So you just kind of want to keep that in the back of your mind, inshallah. But, if someone's looking to start off, filtering their own water, then, the Soma is a good way to go. And, I understand that many people are on the go. I would recommend getting, they sell like glass bottles that you could, reusable glass bottles. And, I know if you get those online, some of those run about $20, but I know a couple months ago I was able to find, and I stocked up on a few. And inshallah, if I remember, I'll post a picture of them on Instagram, inshallah. But I know I found You know, I think they're 20-ounce glass bottles that have like the silicone on the outside because, you know, glass could be dangerous. I found them at my local Costco, I think for like 10 or less than that, I think. I don't completely remember, but you know, you could definitely find things that are affordable. And you know, sometimes if you're on the go, if you do get like a, you know, package of bottled water, it is not the end of the world. It isn't. You know, I will use that sometimes myself, but I really do encourage you to solely, you know, really aim to use glass and whatnot, and just try to be optimal most of the time without driving yourself crazy. Because if you're doing everything you need to do to be healthy, but in the process you're stressing yourself out and whatnot, it really doesn't work that way. So, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt, inshallah. So I hope that that sister, I'm not sure if she's here with us live, but inshallah she'll get the recording if she isn't. But I hope that that answers that question. Now, let's see here. I'm going to go to the second question, inshallah. And the sister writes, inshallah, I worded this correctly and I don't offend you. Don't worry, you're not going to offend me. And I already read it and it wasn't offensive at all. But she writes, Bismillah. And then she says that our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that we should have 1/3 water, 1/3 food, and 1/3 air in our stomach. Does this refer to at the one time or at any given time? I am just confused as you said that we should drink half an hour before meals and 2 hours after meals. Could you please give me some insight on this so that I can follow the sunnah correctly and ideally for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake and my body? So this is a very good question. First of all, I am not a scholar, so I cannot you know, the interpretation of hadith is a very sacred practice that we must respect. And, you know, but nonetheless, I will give you insight on the question without having to interpret the hadith. And this is a wonderful practice, first of all. It's one of my favorite hadith because it helps us, you know, remember the main thing that a lot of times, even in our own Muslim community, and you know, not everyone in the Glow program is Muslim, but a majority of you are. But a lot of times in our community, the one that's really left out is the air one, especially in Ramadan when people are breaking their fast and you know, people are hungry and they fill up really quickly. We always want to make sure there's air in there. That's probably the one that people are leaving out the most. But yeah, so while I cannot interpret the hadith because I'm not a scholar, what I can say is that, you know, I personally see that as, you know, making sure that you're balancing out what goes into your stomach. Let me tell you a little bit about your stomach. Your stomach is roughly the size of your fist. So I'd like you to take your fist right now and make a fist. Don't punch anyone, but, you know, make a fist. And you'll notice, like, wow, that's pretty small. That's how big your stomach is, okay? Now, your stomach is actually a muscle, which is also very cool. And our stomach stretches. So I know you were thinking when you made that fist, like, what? My stomach is this small? Then how does it fit all this stuff in it? But our stomach is pretty small. So, you know, and it's able to stretch. But obviously, you know, not giving it the adequate care that it needs and stretching it too much is obviously not good for it. So there is a lot of wisdom in this hadith because it recognizes that, and hold on one second if you don't mind. I just need to send something very quickly here. Okay, jazakallah khair. So another thing I want to mention is I'm sure some of you have also heard the hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also tells us that all disease begins in the stomach. And subhanAllah, that couldn't be any closer to the truth. And I'm really excited for, I believe it's our next class, class number 5, where we talk about gut health and digestive health and all this good stuff that we're really going to dive into that. but we really want to take care of our stomach because it's very crucial. And so, I've always seen this hadith as a reminder to balance, to make sure that we're not only putting food in our stomach, to make sure that we're also leaving, equal room for water and, equal room for air, inshallah. And, just to add some logic to it, I don't, if someone were to say that we had to, every time we eat, or put something into our mouth that goes into our stomach, that it had to be water, food, and air, that would mean that you could never really eat without drinking, or you could never drink without eating, or vice versa. And we know that this deen is a dynamic one. So I don't want to go too much in depth, but what I will say is we want to, if we want to follow the sunnah properly, we want to make sure that we are giving our stomach the air it needs, the water it needs, and the food it needs. Not just giving it food and not enough water, or vice versa. So inshallah, I hope that answers your question. And we're going to go to the next one. And also, you didn't offend me. I know the question also ended with, I'm sorry if I came across rude. Not at all, sister. It is pretty hard to offend me, alhamdulillah. But, not impossible, but hard. Okay, so let's see here. Next question, inshallah. This sister writes, we have been trying to cook healthier foods recently, and we dramatically cut down on frying foods. However, sometimes family members still want fried foods, and coconut oil doesn't work well with us. It froths over a lot and can get expensive. What is a good pesticide-free substitute oil, if any? What about peanut oil? Can you even find organic canola or vegetable oil? So this is a very good question because it's practical. And, obviously the sister, and I know the sister has actually brought this question up to me before, but it's a lot more in detail now. And so, obviously the sister states that she has dramatically cut down on frying food in terms of, how she feeds her family, mashallah. And nonetheless, obviously, when food is fried, a good amount of oil is used. So I could definitely understand what you mean in terms of, having to use a lot of it. And, the fact that the texture of coconut oil is way different than canola or vegetable oil. And inshallah, I'm going to go using the continuum approach to answer this question. Now, first of all, I want to clarify something here that's kind of like a misconception. The sister wrote, what is a good pesticide-free substitute oil? So that means that there's an assumption here that coconut oil is always pesticide-free. The only time that coconut oil would be pesticide-free is if it's organic coconut oil, which most of the time, especially I could really only speak for here in the US and really here in New Jersey for the most part, but a lot of times now when we do see coconut oil in the supermarkets, it is organic for the most part. But nonetheless, you could buy, coconut oil that is not organic, that's laced with other oils or whatnot, that's not 100% pure. But I just want to make sure that no one is assuming that coconut oil is pesticide free. The only way that that would be true is if it's organic coconut oil. Now, I know, and for those of you that watched the hormonal balance video yesterday, you know that I mentioned the best oils, and those were, coconut oil specifically, and I don't think I said this on the video, but, extra virgin cold pressed unrefined, usually it doesn't say virgin on it, it says cold pressed unrefined coconut oil, and you want to go organic. And I know another thing in here is that the sister mentioned that coconut oil could get expensive. That is definitely true. I know, and I guess I'm going to be like a Costco advocate on this call, although, I do not go that often, but I know that they have a really big thing of organic coconut oil that is probably almost 40% cheaper than other places when you buy it in bulk or whatnot. So that's just something to keep in mind. And obviously depending on where you live, there are other places that offer that, but don't think that eating healthy has to break the bank. It doesn't. You just have to do a little bit of research. And I know that, you know, us women are good at, you know, finding deals and whatnot anyway. So I'm sure that everyone's good in that area, but, you know, don't think that it's impossible. But nonetheless, let's get back to the core of this question in terms of it not, coconut oil not really being able to satisfy the type of cooking mentioned here. Now, yesterday I mentioned how in the class, if you watched it, the hormonal balance class, I mentioned how olive oil, specifically extra virgin olive oil, is very good for garnishing on your food, and how you don't want to cook with olive oil because it has a very low heat temperature, and therefore it's not dangerous to cook with it. But when you do cook with it, you know, all of the nutrients of that olive oil are, you know, it's pretty much dead because the heat kills it all. But one thing I did not mention in that call is that you could actually, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, there's obviously extra virgin olive oil, but there's also pure or regular olive oil. Usually that one is a lot cheaper than the extra virgin. That is refined olive oil, and people use that for cooking. It's already been processed by heat, and therefore, you know, it's a little less optimal, obviously, but, you know, you can cook with that. It is cheaper, and it, you know, you're not really wasting the good qualities of the extra virgin olive oil because it's already been, you know, processed by heat. And, you know, I can't really remember the last time I fried something, but I know that the texture of the regular or the pure olive oil is definitely a lot more friendlier to that than the coconut oil. So I would recommend that. Now, to answer your questions about peanut oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, yes, you can find those things organic. It's really not hard at all. I mean, here in the US and New Jersey, I would probably say that you could find it, you know, at maybe like a Wegmans or a Whole Foods, depending on where you live. It might be somewhere else. You know, the internet, you could find anything these days. I would not recommend those oils because they're not good for the thyroid gland, and we're already dealing with a huge, I would call it an epidemic of people with thyroid issues and whatnot. But if it's, you know, a once in a while type of thing, it's not the end of the world, but you really want to stick to the coconut oil and the olive oil for sure. And I would recommend to this sister to try the pure regular olive oil, to try cooking with that just for this specific need, inshallah. And I look forward to hearing how this goes. The next question is, my face has been getting dry this winter. What is a good face cream / moisturizer? Can you use coconut oil? So, you know, I know a lot of people who successfully use coconut oil on their face, and, you know, everyone's skin reacts differently. So you just want to be, you kind of want to test things and whatnot. It's obviously, it's safe to use on your face, but, you know, you want to see how your body reacts to it, especially with skin, topical items, especially with the face. Everyone's face is different. One brand that I would recommend that is a good brand is the unscented Kiss My Face lotion, which doesn't have any bad ingredients in it. Now, for the winter months, it does not, it is pretty thin, so it's, you know, not very shielding for the winter months. But, you know, another decent one, which I would say the Kiss My Face is definitely more optimal, but it's less effective in the winter, is Aveeno Active Naturals unscented fragrance-free lotion that is safe to use on the face. And I would also recommend, you know, using a little bit of that lotion and also adding a dot of tea tree oil to it, and to use that. But, you know, the Kiss My Face one is also very good, but it doesn't really hold up that well in the winter. And I would say experiment. I'm going to share another link in the comments. It's the Environmental Working Group. Hold on a second here. They're the ones that came out with Dirty Dozen and Clean 15, but something else that's very cool that they have, and some of you might be familiar with this, is they have something called the Skin Deep Database. And what that is you can literally search products, whether they are personal care products, cleaning products. I know there's a cleaning products question coming up, but you could search products and it will tell you, it'll actually rate it in terms of how good it is for you, what toxins it has. You'll either get like a green light or like a red, stay away, stay far, far away. So I know I used this not really recently because I'm kind of set in my stuff, but whenever I'm researching something that I'm not sure of, and especially at the time that I was transitioning between things. But it's a really good resource. And again, I wouldn't go and throw everything you own away right away. I know for myself, it took years to really go through things, one step at a time, whether it was lotions or soaps or cleaning products or, whatever the case may be. And it's always a work in progress. That's really important. And I promise you, there'll always be other things, whether it be the items you cook your food with or your clothes or this or that. And there's even things I'm still working through now, more so fabric area. That's kind of my focus now, and I'm taking that slowly. But that's a whole other topic. But the Skin Deep database is a really good place to go. And I will, in terms of cleaning products, there's a question coming up about that. So I will say more about that soon, inshallah. But I just shared the Skin Deep database website on the video. So I hope that that's helpful, inshallah. Okay, next question. It's the household cleaning question. Give me 1 second here I'm pasting all these questions into my notes as I answer them. Okay, so can you talk about household cleaners as hormone disruptors? What cleaners are safe? Have you ever used or heard of, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, I looked this company up today, I hadn't heard of them before, but I've heard of a lot of companies. Melaleuca, I think what it is. I think it's named after an essential oil, but it's an actual brand. If so, what's your opinion on them? So there's a lot of brands out there, but first let me talk about the first question. Can you talk about household cleaner as hormone disruptors? Absolutely. I would say a lot of your regular household cleaners, they have high toxicity in there and they enter your skin, which I mentioned on the detox video that it roughly takes only 26 seconds for things that enter our skin to hit our bloodstream. So that's like a big whoa. Let's step back and think about that. And also a lot of household cleaners too, they have fragrances, synthetic fragrances in there. And really, by all means, do you want to avoid synthetic fragrances because they are really big endocrine disruptors. The endocrine system is our whole hormonal system. And you'll also find those in like perfumes, body sprays, air sprays. And the best way to go are products that have all their scents come from essential oils, which I know a lot of people in the group have been talking about essential oils. But there's even some brands out there that are green friendly. They look like they're good, clean brands, but they might not have like the chemicals in them like the other brands, but they still have synthetic fragrances. So I would, go on the side of caution with that because you really don't want to have synthetic fragrances in your body. And you'll notice, like I know I haven't used, synthetic fragrances, whether it be in my cleaning products or soaps or, even like my own scented stuff. I know for those of you who are in the VIP version of this program, alongside all the vitamins and the superfoods and stuff that I sent you, I sent one of my favorite brands of like a roll-on perfume that uses essential oils and is in a jojoba oil blend. That's really nice, but I haven't used synthetic fragrances in a long time. And let me tell you a funny story. My husband is a teacher in high school. He's a history teacher. And one of his students gave him a gift not long ago, which was very nice of her. And she said that it was for, she said, it's for you and your wife. I know how you guys are. So he brought it. We opened it together, and it was a soap, like very nice, fancy hand soaps, and I don't remember the brand, but it was paraben free. It was SLS free, which stands for sodium lauryl sulfate. It was, it was free of all these different things, but I could smell it from like a mile away. It still had synthetic fragrances in it, and if you read the ingredients, it even had dyes in it, like yellow whatever number and red whatever number and stuff like that. And it really amazes me because I thought it was the sweetest thing of this young student to give us this. It was very, very thoughtful of her. And to her, this is like a very, very good product for sure. But I'm more disappointed in the company because how do you know enough about clean products that you are not including a lot of these things like parabens and stuff like that? But yet you're still including, fragrances and stuff. And you'll notice if you wean yourself off of synthetic fragrances that when you do smell them, it just does not, like, it makes you sick almost because that's how synthetic they are. But if you're really used to them, you don't really notice that. But yeah, you'll, feel really refreshed when you smell anything with like essential oils. And essential oils are also great because a lot of them have antibacterial qualities, even antiviral qualities, things like that. So I would say that's key. I would say you want to really familiarize yourself with being able to read ingredients. You want to use that Skin Deep database, and I'll recommend a couple brands that I trust. I mean, there are and you can even make your own stuff. Like your own spray. I know someone mentioned out of like baking soda and vinegar and like lemon essential oil. That works for like a countertop spray. But I know for myself personally, especially with like bathroom disinfectant spray or kitchen disinfectant cleaners, I do like to buy a store-bought brand, and I will share the brands that I like. And with certain things like hand soaps, I'll rotate between a couple of different brands depending on like what's on sale and stuff like that. But I will share brands I like. And remember, you want to educate yourself. Don't just follow these because of what I said. And I looked at the website that the sister mentioned. The I'm butchering the name, but the okay, Melaleuca, I have no idea, products brand, but from the surface it seemed okay. I didn't have a lot of time to really read, but you could follow the same protocol. But I will say you don't have to dedicate yourself to one specific company. You simply just have to, and you always want to be on top of things. So you always want to not just trust a company once and never read their ingredients again. No, things change, companies change their formula, so you always want to be on top of things for sure. So cleaning brands I recommend. I really like, let's see here. I like earth friendly products, if any of you have heard of them, because it's very cost friendly. They're found at a lot of different places. I like them for dish soap. I like their hand soap. I use their laundry detergent. Laundry detergent is a big one. And I know some sisters even make their own laundry detergent. I use theirs, but sometimes the toxin-free laundry detergents could be very, very expensive, but theirs is very good. Let's see what else. Yeah, those are the main ones. I like Seventh Generation. I like their bathroom disinfectant spray. They have thyme essential oil in it, lemongrass, which is very good, and they obviously have other formulas in there. Be patient with me. I'm typing this in so you have these as notes. I rotate on hand soaps a lot between earth friendly products. What else? Seventh Generation, BO. Let's see. I really like Kiss My Face products. I like their toothpaste, which again, some other stuff you can, I understand some sisters make their own stuff and that's totally fine. I do that sometimes, but I am sharing, I know a lot of people might not have, they want to buy products or they don't have the time for that. So I'm sharing some of my favorites if you're going to take that route. Let's see, I like their toothpaste. They have a nice body wash. What else? They have a good moisturizer, like I mentioned before. They have a very gentle shave cream if that's your thing. I would recommend the unscented, especially if you're shaving and opening up your pores. I wouldn't recommend anything else. And I really recommend essential oils. The best ones for cleaning are lemon, thyme, rosemary for disinfecting. Tea tree oil is really great. I like to add a drop of essential oil to laundry, even if I'm using like a laundry detergent, just because, even if you put like a drop of orange essential oil in your laundry, it makes it smell really nice. These are just a few things. Okay, next question. And I could probably talk about each question for a long, long time, but I have 3 more questions to get through for this call that were submitted through the form. And then if there's anything else, I'll find them. So the next one is there a link between our thyroid and reproductive system? If so, how? Absolutely. I mean, your thyroid, my thyroid, everyone's thyroid is very connected to everything in our body. Basically, the main things that our thyroid gland regulates, which your thyroid is, in your neck area. It's a little butterfly-shaped gland. It's really important in how we metabolize our food. It helps regulate our body temperature. It also has a very strong link to our heart rate. And it also has links to like our eyes, our hair, our nails, many different things. But the main reason why it's linked to our reproductive system is because the thyroid gland and our reproductive organs, they are both part of our endocrine system. So let's see here. I'm going to write this in the comments too. Okay. So, they're both part of our endocrine system, and the hormones that the thyroid gland produces is very important if someone is, trying to conceive or especially in pregnancy. I mean, think of it this way: if it's regulating our metabolism, how a baby receives food from its mother is very, the thyroid has a very big connection there. 1 second here. I made a typo. And then the next question, which also has to do with thyroid, is what are some symptoms of thyroid disorders? So the most common thyroid issues, the 2 most common ones, hypothyroid, which is an underactive thyroid, is the most common one. And it doesn't just happen with females, it also happens with males. Let me just write this here too. Most common So we have hypo, and you guys could follow this, by the way, on the comments of this video. Let's see here, hypothyroid, which is underactive. Thyroid, that means it doesn't produce enough of the hormones we need. And usually this issue, hypothyroid, comes from, it's very linked to autoimmune disease. So, you know, if someone has hypothyroid, you know, they usually also struggle with Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune disorder that actually causes the hypothyroid. So it's linked. And then there's hyperthyroidism, which is overactive thyroid. And that's linked to Graves' disease, which is also an autoimmune disorder. And what's interesting is that both of the autoimmune disorders, I'm going to write this here, both autoimmune disorders are highly linked to low vitamin D. That's not the only reason, but I know I've worked with a lot of women with thyroid issues, and low vitamin D is a big one. Another big one, another big thing for thyroid issues is stress. And then other than those two, there's also people might develop goiters, even if they don't have an underactive or an overactive thyroid. So stress is another huge one, and stress happens because of adrenal fatigue. If I'm talking slow, it's just because I'm also typing here. If I don't do it now, it's just, I'm going to lose it afterwards, because, you know, I just want to make sure that you have all this if you want to do further reading or whatnot. So our adrenal glands produce cortisol when we're stressed, right? It's like a fight or flight response. And stress is a very common thing nowadays. And our body, you know, if we're stressing way too often, more than we should be, when our body produces cortisol, it's supposed to happen to protect us, because when we, you know, get into these intense bouts of stress, it takes a toll on our body, and our body thinks something really big is going on. But the problem is that when we're getting stressed over little things, and our body keeps producing this cortisol and it's impacting our adrenal glands, that really plays, that really harms the thyroid gland. So that is one thing. Now, in terms of symptoms, even if someone doesn't have a thyroid disease, they're not, you know, their blood work looks fine, someone, it's not uncommon, especially for women, to have thyroid glands that aren't 100% optimal. So if someone struggles with weight loss, that is an indication that something's going on with the thyroid gland, because the thyroid gland regulates metabolism. If someone is, you know, really having trouble with regulating their body temperature. So, you know, as women, we tend to get cold more often than males, but if it's really intense, like I know for myself, several years ago, which I'm sure many of you know because I share this openly, but I promise you, I was not healthy at all at one point. You know, we're talking like 40 pounds heavier, you know, a lot of unhealthy habits, you know, but alhamdulillah, have been, you know, started my own journey, and, you know, have kept that journey. I don't know, maybe like 7+ years now, I would have to count, but something like that. But nonetheless, you know, a few years back, I know that I was experiencing, I've never been, you know, diagnosed with a thyroid issue or anything like that. Alhamdulillah, my blood work's always come fine, but I know that there had to have been a point where I was not optimal, because the rate at which I was getting really cold was way too much, was not normal. So, you know, symptoms might be hard time regulating body temperature. Another symptom might be poor metabolism, bulging eyes, goiters on the neck. What else? Brittle hair / nails. And I'm gonna put here too, even if someone does not have a diagnosed thyroid issue, most people are not 100% optimal in this area. That is because of stress, toxins, xenoestrogens, phytoestrogens. By the way, I know we have about 2 minutes left. After this question, I have one more. So I'm going to stick around to answer it, inshallah. If you have to go, that's totally fine. But if you can stick around for a few minutes, I would love that so that you could be here when we do our closing dua, inshallah. And so, you know, it's fun. So yeah, hope you'll stay. But okay. So I've typed all of that up so you have it, so that you all have it, inshallah. Now, I would say it's important not to stress over any of this. You know, I know when I sent out the hormone survey, a lot of you said you don't know if you have an issue. You know, don't drive yourself crazy and, you know, fall into, you know, scrutinizing yourself or whatnot. Just focus on having optimal health. And the other really good question, not the next question, but still part of this question is, let's see here. What tests should we request to check out our thyroid? So there is a very good, if you're familiar with Chris Carr, she is really great, and she's part of the community of the school I received my training in. She has a really good, really good thyroid article. I'm trying to Google it right now, but I'm gonna put that on here so you could reference that. Give me 1 second. But more importantly, she, at the end of this article, she quotes Dr. Frank Littman, who is a integrative doctor who works out of New York. His center is called the 1111 Wellness Center. And, you know, I've also seen him speak in person. He is also linked to the school that I went to, alhamdulillah, but I'm going to include, because this question also asked what tests are good. When you're getting blood work done, I'm going to include what he recommends, because that's exactly what I agree with. And but I'm actually also going to add something that he did not include in here. So this is a long comment, this question. Okay, so he, you know, usually the most common ones are to get your T3 and T4 tested. Those are just names of hormones that are tested to see how the thyroid gland is doing. But he recommends, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 other ones that all measure, you know, your thyroid activity, that you can ask any doctor for. It doesn't have to be a special doctor. But I also recommend checking your vitamin D. That comment is finally done. Okay, last question, inshallah. What is your opinion on traditional feminine care products? So I'm assuming this question is in reference to things like pads, tampons, maybe things like the Diva cup. Well, that's not really traditional, but you know, things like that. I am not, and I know there's even, you know, there's difference of opinions, Islamically speaking, when we talk about tampons, but I do not think that those are healthy for the body. And then obviously they're also questionable if we're going to talk about the deen. But you know, again, I'm not a scholar, so don't take that with a grain of salt. But I would say, just from a health perspective, you know, there's a reason why there's always the warning of toxic shock syndrome, and it just doesn't let the body flow the way that the body needs to flow. I think that pads are fine, but I don't think that all pads are fine. because a lot of pads have bad chemicals in them, have a lot of plastics in them and whatnot. The best ones I recommend are 7th generation. They use, cotton. Let's see, I'm going to write it here. I look forward to the graduation celebration, inshallah, because I won't just be talking to myself. There'll be video and all of you will be there too, inshallah. But yeah, the Q&A calls are fun because I know you're all here. But yeah. Okay, so I like some 7th generation because they are chlorine free. Yep, believe it or not, pads have chlorine in them. They are made of cotton in terms of what touches your body. And they are toxin free, which is a good thing. Now I know that there are also reusable cloth pads. I've done a lot of research in this area, but I have not tried that yet. But I know a lot of people who successfully do that. And I would say that that is a good option as long as you're very hygienic in how you clean them. Because, you wouldn't want to infect yourself. So you just have to be a lot more careful with that. So reusable cloth pads are a good option, but must be cared. By the way, I'm just repeating this so I could type it out. Must be cared for properly. And then there's other things like the Diva Cup, which I don't have personal experience with. I have done research on. I know when I used to work in the corporate/agency world, I had a coworker who told me she loved it. Again, I would just be careful with hygiene in that area. I'm not a big fan of how it's inserted either. I feel like there's some, room for mistake there. So I'm a big fan of, either using a safe pad, which 7th generation isn't the only example, but that's the one that, I like, that I know is easily found. But nonetheless, you want to look for something that's chlorine free, made of cotton, reduces toxin exposure. And I would say the reusable cloth pads are also a good option, but you want to care for them properly. So with that being said, that was the last question I received. I'm just going to look here and see if there's anything I missed from Facebook. I think we're good. I think no one had technical difficulties because I know when I ran the sample class before Glow started, I was answering some emails and helping people out. But alhamdulillah, there was barakah here. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing this call. Inshallah, let's do our closing dua. So I'm going to do exactly what I did before. I'm going to start off with the dua of Musa, Prophet Moses, alayhi salam, may God's peace be upon him. And then I am going to lead us in a dua. And then I'm going to give you and I'm going to give myself some time to remind ourselves of the intentions we set in the beginning. And yeah, and then we will close up, inshallah. And I know people asked if there will be a recording. As it mentions on the registration page, the recording will be sent out if you are part of either the VIP or the pay what you can. I really appreciate all of you who came out live, alhamdulillah, and I look forward. It tells me how many people are here live, but it doesn't tell me who. So I look forward, at least I don't think it does, but I look forward to connecting more on the group. And inshallah, I hope that I answered your questions adequately. So that being said, رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Ya Allah, thank you for joining us as sisters in this dunya. Please reunite us as sisters in your akhirah. Ya Allah, increase us in tranquility and allow us to be of the righteous path. Ya Allah, forgive us for our mistakes and allow us to become a better version of ourselves every single day, inshallah. Ameen, ameen, rabbil alameen. Go ahead, sisters, take a moment, make a dua to yourself, set an intention, and then I'll close up. And please go post on our group to let me know how you like this afterwards too. But yeah, take a second to set your intention, inshallah. I'll do the same. Not set your intention, but visit the intention you set in the beginning and make any dua. Okay, with that being said, Jazakallah khair for attending our first live Q&A call. Yay, alhamdulillah. And all good, as always, comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any bad or mistakes is from myself because I'm human and I make mistakes. But, try to be better every day, alhamdulillah. And yeah, go post on our group and let me know how you like this. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatAllah wa barakatuhu, my dear, beautiful, lovely sisters.